Glasses, man. GLA double dollar sign, East Side, glasses, Malone, East Side, feel me? The most.
All right. I'm glad, bring it back to where it all started for you, how you got into the game.
Into hip hop,
Yeah.
really it was a way to keep my younger brother out of trouble. I was already in a lot of trouble. You know, I was already hustling, gangbanging at that point, selling PCP. And my mom wanted me to keep my little brother out of trouble. He was in YA at the time, Youth Authority. It's like a prison for like teenagers, you know, somewhere between teenagers and 25. Like if you under 18, you go to Youth Authority. And you could do as much as 7 years or somewhere close. You have to get out at 25. So he was getting out of Youth Authority. And she wanted me to try to keep him out of trouble. And he wanted to rap. I never thought about being a rapper. I naturally wrote stories, but I never was a rapper. And he said he wanted to start a rap group with me, but I think he just wanted me to pay for the studio. So I want to believe he lied, but we started rapping. We created a group, me, K-Style, and my older brother, Pooh. And my older brother, Pooh, decided to be a manager. My little brother, K, he got in trouble again and he went back to jail. And I just kept on making music. Like, I liked it. It became therapeutic, you know, to combine with all of the stuff I was going through at the time. Helped me, like, release it.
Okay. Tell us about the energy, the lifestyle, and how hip-hop was being receptive when you got into the game, when you started.
So, the West Coast, when I first got in the game, was at this really weird place. So this is probably not a full decade, but more than 6, 7 years after Tupac was killed and Biggie got killed the following year. So West Coast music kind of became like limited. Kind of got frozen. New acts wasn't really coming out. And if they were, they wouldn't getting a shot at the highest levels. Exhibit kind of solidified itself at that time, but it really wasn't nothing else. It was Dr. Dre had dropped a couple years before that, a few years before that. Snoop was still dropping stuff, the East Siders, which was Snoop's group. So it was at this weird place, but hip hop was definitely more authentic probably when I first started. Like the East Siders, Y.Dee. Y.Dee is like a genuine character. It's what he's talking about is pretty much based off of the stuff that was going on. So I think most of the hip hop, when I first got into it, was just really authentic. And it was like transparent about that, whatever culture you was living at that time.
Okay. Bring us back like a little bit before that, you know, before you got into the game, what was your perspective or your idea? What did you know about how hip hop got into the West Coast right off the East Coast?
So at that time, I didn't really know about Uncle Jam's Army or World Class Wrecking Crew. I knew about Ice-T. And I was real young at that point. But I remember the first song that everybody else was talking about outside of the West Coast. So you had groups like the Dream Team. Egyptian Lover had some dope stuff. You know, you would hear it. Really the heroes of the community at that time on the East Side was Spade and T. Mixed Master Spade and Toddy T. And Ice-T kind of bust on the scene with 6 in the morning. And it became like, as a kid, I remember that was the first time I felt like everybody I knew connected to this idea and this identity. And was like, oh yeah, this dude is speaking for us. He's talking about how we live our life. And then NWA. Boys in the Hood came out before NWA kind of really hit. So Boys in the Hood was like 6 in the morning. So that's how I remember. Kind of
anthem or something?
Well, it was kind of like this storytelling style of rap that came from Y.Dee, but it became really culturally revealing about what was going on where we was from. You know what I'm saying? So Boys in the Hood, is 6 in the morning. It's the same song. Like if you listen to him, how easy flowed the song. When Q was writing it, I could tell he was listening to Ice-T. And he raps it just like 6 in the morning, as best as he could at that time, because Easy wasn't really a rapper. You know what I'm saying? He was like somebody that was from the streets getting on with rap. So, but that's how I remember West Coast hip hop for everybody else, and them being able to see us.
Okay. What does hip hop represent for Grass Malone today?
Hip hop for me represents culture. It's really important that it's culturally revealing. Not even just from an artistic standpoint, but bringing in something that the rest of the world didn't have. Bringing perspective. You know what I'm saying? I think hip hop has always been something that allowed, otherwise silenced community, otherwise ignored community, finally got a voice on the big stage and able to tell the world, like, yo, this is what's going on here. So for me, like, I've really rooted my belief in hip hop in that right there alone. Bringing culture to the table. Making sure everybody know, making sure that the issues in my community are not ignored.
All right. Tell us about do you really think that, the Bloods and Crips and gang affiliation and everything that both gangs were going through had an impact on hip hop, on the West Coast hip hop scene?
Yeah, that's fair. The culture of gangbanging definitely had influence on the hip hop scene. But what I realized on the East Coast, I've noticed this. The East Coast hip hop is the culture. It's like rapping, DJing, graffiti, tagging, breaking, and the lessons. That's what hip hop is for them. So hip hop is their culture. They live to be rappers. In New York, you could just be dope. You don't got to be nothing else. You know what I'm saying? You don't got to be nothing. You could just be a dope MC, and that's more than enough in New York, or on the East Coast for the most part. But on the West Coast, our cultures make up hip hop. You know what I mean? If you get it. So on the East Coast, hip hop is their culture. Being a rapper is their culture. DJing is their culture. Breaking, tagging, the lessons, 5%, the lessons, that's their culture. Here, our culture is, we have gangbanging is probably the most popular urban thing that people know from the West Coast. So our culture is hip hop. So you kind of had to be vested in new information on that said culture to be truly like a pillar in West Coast hip hop. If you didn't have any true understanding or lessons of what was going on in the streets, you couldn't survive the hip hop scene. Like some guys could have a song or two, but they wouldn't last or they wouldn't get as celebrated as the guys that had more lessons and more information about what was going on in LA streets or the West Coast streets at that time.
Right. So what do you think about hip hop and politics, like the government politics?
I think it's dope as long as it's something that's affecting our community.
Yeah, because where I'm from, like, some rappers think that you have to be a rapper / activist for your music or your voice to be heard. You agree on that?
No. I think at the core you just need to be a reporter and a representative of a community. You don't have to be about you don't have to try to fix the problem. Everybody, I think that's what's wrong with today's hip hop. A lot of people get caught up and you have people marketing the concept of fixing the problem, and that's just like sucks because there's people that really believe in, people saying that they're here to fix problems, and it's like, yo, you're not. You're here to rap and entertain and inform. But no, if I hear somebody from Senegal rapping, I would want to hear what's going on there. I want you to pop the lingo that's going on there. I don't want to turn on the tape and it sound like like somebody from here. I understand culture is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's contagious. You know, gangbang is all over the world. Hip hop is all over the world. But I also want people to put their own spin on it. So, no, I don't think you have to be a politician. I think you just need to be focused on informing the rest of the world about your community. That's really important. Like when I listen to your music, I should get, if it's really hip hop. I mean, you don't gotta, every rapper they're not hip hop. Every rapper is not hip hop. It's a ton of rappers who just mainstream or pop culture rappers, and that's dope. But if you go under the guise as hip hop, like, it should have, you know, cultural implications about what you represent. And I think that's the main ingredients to me, culture.
How important the lyrics are to Malone?
So it's 50-50 for me. I would like to believe I only prefer people that had dope lyrics, or like that was saying something. Tupac, Scarface, you know, Jay-Z. But I love rappers who find these rhythms and these grooves and exploit them. They become a part of the music. I love that as much. I love the flow as much as I love the words. So I won't lie and say, oh yeah, it's just Scarface or die. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever else could die. But I just want you to be good at it. It don't matter if you don't got to be Scarface for me to like you as an MC. You just got to be great at what you do. Snoop is totally different than Scarface, but his flow is immaculate and special. So he don't have to say the same thing Scarface says. I mean, the times he does, obviously that's even sweeter. But Doggy Style is all flow. You know, it's some street lessons in there, but it's more flow and just this special kind of MC molded in the original essence of what Kool Herc had next to him in Coke La Rock, you know, at the beginning. So I love both if it's good, as long as it's good, as long as it's top level stuff.
Right. Is it important today to be signed on a major label?
No, that's done. If you make records, you want to be signed to a major label. If you don't make records, you shouldn't. And when I say records, I mean hit records. And I mean, if that's not your focus, you should not sign to a record label. If your focus is anything else, I mean anything else, if your number one focus ain't making hit records, do not sign to a record label, because that's the only way they know how to market. They don't know how to, you know, do anything else. They could do other small stuff, but they'll never be happy if you don't have hit records. No matter how popular you are, it just won't work out.
Hip hop saves Black America, yes or no?
Saved my life. I'd have for sure been dead or in prison. I mean, it's a negative stigma to it. You know, obviously people feel like at times it gets a bit too negative. Like, let's say if you're talking about drill music in Chicago, the problem is I wouldn't know what's going on in Chicago without it. You know, drill, Chief Keef, Dirk, Reese, you know, Chop. The reason the news started covering what was going on in Chicago for black people around the world to even have empathy or have care is because they started talking about it, and then the news picked up on the conversation and they started counting what was going on. Mm-hmm. Before that, it was happening before, but I never knew about it. So even in this most future, you know, from Atlanta, and him talking about the opioid epidemic they having and popping pills, I didn't know that was going on. I did not know people was popping medication as recreation. I didn't know that. I mean, none of my partners was. So without it, we don't know these problems exist to even help other black people around the rest of the world, this country or the world. So even in its most negative states, to me, it's positive, because you're being informed on what's happening somewhere else that, you know, necessarily the mainstream media won't tell us. You know, if somebody's working on the solution for what's going on in Chicago now, it's due to them boys letting us know what was going on.
True.
So even with Future and them, I wouldn't know what was going on without them. So I'm grateful for every facet, even if it seems negative.
Tell us about your music.
So for me, it's initially it just became therapy. It was like the microphone was like my psychologist. I could talk to it about all the stuff that I was going through. It's hard being in the middle of, you know, gang wars and you shooting at people and shooting people and getting shot at and selling drugs. And, you know, as you start coming into your own, you start realizing, when I first was selling drugs, I didn't think nothing was wrong with it. I thought everybody made their own self-conscious choice, you know what I mean, to come purchase a product. And I prided myself in having the best quality till I realized it wasn't a conscious choice. So even backing out of it, it was years and years of doing it that I felt bad about. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel bad about being a gang member. I feel bad about being a drug dealer. You know what I mean? That was fucked up because it's you know, I could find a million ways to make
I
money.
mean, both are dangerous. Like, what's the difference? Being a gangman and being a drug dealer.
A drug dealer is so it starts off as a simple way to survive, but then it turns you into an extreme capitalist.
It doesn't have the same ending though.
Sometimes, but yeah, very rarely. You know, for very few. But I'm saying, so with drug dealing, you can't. Even the best situations is nothing good coming from it. To be honest, it's nothing good coming from it. Being a gangbanger is different. It's standing up for my friends. I mean, in its purest state. I can't speak for all the weird shit going on that I don't understand, but my homies is different. We grew up together. You know, before I was from 117th Street Watch Crib, like, everybody knew we was them boys from 117th Street. So whether or not you thought it was gangbanging, it don't matter. If something happened to my friend, we gonna stand up for him. We starved together. We came up together. You know what I mean? So I don't even frown on that at all. I actually, if you really grew up where you from, you know what I mean, and that's your community and you represent it and you stand down with your friends, I'd never say nothing bad to you. I think it's weird when people, you know, go somewhere that they didn't grow up with the people and then they start claiming the area. That's weird because what's your bond with the people? You know what I mean? Like, are you really, like, you like somebody that go to the military, you must just be vested, you know, under the street sign. But for me, it was my friends. It's my homeboys. I know their moms and dads. And I know their kids now. So I'll never feel bad about my community and none of that. Like, that's what it is. Drug dealing, it sucks. Like, you see people that, you know, people barely getting their life together now. Right now, you know what I mean? It's 20 years. You know, people just starting to get their life together, and, you know, you had a good help, and even though you're not totally responsible, you had a good help in keeping them confused. You know, they could have found somebody else, but at least, you know, I could have helped them make sure it wasn't me.
Tupac Must Die. Tell us about that joint and what's the story behind it?
So Tupac Must Die was really, what was important to me was the story and the morality. Culture is really rooted in morality. Somewhere it gets lost, but outside of lingo, outside of cuisine, it's rooted in morality. What's right and what's wrong. And I feel like it's a whole world of people trying to get vested in a culture that they don't have true information on the morality of it all. You know, they don't have information on what it's really about. Even right now, like, most people don't realize these is your friends you grew up with. This ain't about the street sign or the color of the bandana. You know what I mean? It's about your friends. And if something happened to them, you feel, you know, you poor enough, you feel, you know, empowered enough to go do something about it. You know what I mean? So Tupac Must Die was just a lesson in morality from our culture. It doesn't matter who you are, nobody's above the program. You know what I mean? If you violate certain rules or you violate certain people, you know what I mean, in disrespectful ways, even the most important, even the most important of us could fall victim to the morality of it. You know, more than anything, is no man is bigger than the program. So it was a harsh lesson that I felt like people needed to know before they start talking about this culture or acting like they're a part of it. You don't understand, you know, maybe you don't understand the morality clause of it. And I noticed a lot of people, they didn't know that that was a situation.
Do you remember when Tupac died? What was you doing and where were you?
Selling dope. Yeah. On the 7th in my neighborhood. So in real time we heard about the shooting. So in real time we heard about the fight, you know, when they jumped on him. And we kind of already knew how it was going to play out.
Where they jumped on him or when he jumped on Orlando?
No, when the death row guys, all the death row guys, including Pac, jumped on Orlando.
Oh, okay.
So we heard about that right kind of within, 10 minutes of it happening, and it kind of got out there real fast. And so we all kind of expected it to happen. Because if you jump on certain people, you know what I mean?
Repercussion.
It's a justice that comes with it, and we all see it as justice, even to the point where, when he got shot, none of us felt bad. We like, damn, man, fucking with that bullshit. You know what I mean? You in the middle of some shit, and you doing your thing with him. It's like, shit, I was the wrong person to jump on.
Like, as somebody like him, like, what Pac represent to the West Coast to you? After 25 years, he passed.
Pac is probably the most prolific person I ever heard in my life speak. He's one of the most important voices of my lifetime. It's a level of purity about what he does. Really, it was a time where he kind of helped me shape. It was a time where, like Machiavelli, even in death, right? He helped me shape. Like, I didn't give a fuck, but he helped me not give a fuck just a little bit more. And one of the most important things about Pac was, like, I think his music helped me not be so scared of dying. That was one of the things now the more I think about it now, he made me I wasn't as scared of dying as I was pre-Tupac. Like Scarface got me through all of the missions and having to, hurt people. Well, Tupac kind of got the fear of like somebody tripping about it to me. Like, personally, that's what it did for me.
Today, we're trying to do this back to the source documentary. We're gathering all 3 continents in one: African Americans and European, maybe even Canada, to try to bring everyone together on one stage with one voice so we can speak to the whole world together. What do you think about that?
I think that's dope. I mean, what's the message? Just as long as the message is something powerful, something real, something people can hold. One thing I don't want to do is sell people hope. I like to sell people solutions.
Do you think the language can be a barrier?
Not with music.
In hip hop?
Nah, music bypasses language. You know what I'm saying? If it's, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, they're some of the most, probably is almost as popular as Mickey Mouse. It's probably Jesus, Mickey Mouse, Snoop, and Tupac. So I don't think most people that don't speak English don't understand them, but I think you get the everything comes off of you. You know what I mean? So I done been to Japan and did concerts and people rapping every word that I'm saying, but then walk up to me and don't speak English.
Like, do you think beef is really necessary for hip hop to grow up today?
Do I think beef is necessary for hip hop to blow up? No, it's not necessary. It's just, people love choosing sides. The average human being loves choosing sides. So it's one of the most successful marketing strategies more than it's necessary. If you don't use it, you just asking people to think, and people lazy. They want to take the shortest way out. The shortest way is, if it's a beef, everybody's gonna care about two men having an issue and trying to deal with their conflict. So I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just easy, and I think people take the easy route out.
What do you think about? What do you think is like the most dangerous thing about this music industry? One word.
The most dangerous thing, man, I wish I had my fly gun. I had a fly gun at home. I'd be shooting the shit out these flies. I hunt them down too. One word, the most dangerous thing about this music industry: posing. Posing. Acting as if you're something that you're not, you don't have the definition of. That pretty much gets you done in every time.
You want to send a message to the whole world that's watching you right now?
A message to the whole world. Grits taste better with sugar, not salt.